Good morning, I'm Maiki Oreta, and you're watching Basis Points, where we dive deep into the numbers and the stories that drive our economy and shape our world. The headlines: Bangko Sentral Governor Eli Remolona signals more rate cuts are coming soon. We'll discuss the BSP's dovish stance and its impact on equities with the chief equity strategist at DA Market Securities, Nisha Alisher. The House of Representatives passes the national budget on final reading. And Meta unveils its first working prototype for augmented reality glasses. Now let's take a look at how markets in Asia are doing. Right now they're sharply higher in early trade, on track to extend a rally fueled by China's stimulus measures. Japan's Nikkei 225 and South Korea's Kospi are up by nearly 2%, while Australia's ASX 200 is up by 0.7%. Meantime, futures for Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index are pointing to a third straight day of gains. Over in Wall Street, the Dow Jones and the S&P 500 trekked lower as investors await more economic data and signals on the upcoming rate cuts. The Dow Jones lost 0.7%, while the S&P 500 shed 0.2%, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq closed flat.
Yeah, so we're about a week past the 50 basis point cut by the Federal Reserve, and markets today are giving back a little bit of the kind of steady incremental gains that we've had over the course of the last week. Seem to be finding some footing in the S&P, somewhere comfortable above 5,700 or so, which is still near all-time highs, pretty much at all-time highs. And we're in a little bit of a lull here now. It was Fed, and now we're kind of waiting on inflation and employment. Both of those figures we'll get some information on here in the next, 5 or 6 trading days. So a little bit of ebb and flow in the markets.
Over in Europe, the major indices there also finished lower on selling in energy stocks that mimic the decline in crude oil prices. The UK's FTSE 100 shed 0.2%, while the German DAX gave up 0.4%. France's CAC 40 declined by 0.5%. Over in the commodities market, oil prices decreased as concerns over supply disruptions in Libya eased. U.S. crude and Brent oil are also lower by more than 2%. Now, gold prices hit a record high of $2,670 per ounce on expectations of another hefty rate cut before settling at $2,658 per ounce. Our top story: more interest rate cuts are ahead for the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. BSP Governor Eli Remolona Jr. signals the possibility of 2 more rate cuts as inflation continues to ease. Remolona says the BSP may slash the benchmark rates by 25 basis points at their rate-setting meetings in October and December. Now, the latest guidance is more aggressive than his earlier signal of a quarter-point reduction for the remainder of 2024. In addition to this, the central bank chief is ruling out a one-time 50 basis point cut, as this may suggest risks of a hard landing. This marks Remolona's first rate outlook since the U.S. Federal Reserve launched an easing cycle with a supersized 50 basis point cut just last week. The House of Representatives approves the government's 6.35 trillion peso budget proposal. The general appropriations bill was approved on second and third reading on the same day after President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. certified it as urgent. A total of 285 members voted in favor, while 3 voted negatively, with no abstentions. In his letter to both chamber leaders, Marcos urged lawmakers to fast-track the bill to ensure the continuity in critical government operations and to allocate funds for important initiatives. The national government's budget deficit narrowed sharply last month thanks to a strong double-digit jump in revenues and a modest decline in state spending. Data from the Bureau of Treasury shows that the budget gap shrank by roughly 60% to 54.2 billion pesos from the 133 billion deficit a year ago. This as non-tax collections boost total government revenues by a quarter to about 386 billion pesos. On the expenditure side, government spending is slightly declined to 440 billion pesos, now partly due to lower subsidy releases and to outstanding checks from various departments. In the first 8 months, the budget deficit is down by nearly 5% year-on-year to 697 billion pesos. In other news, the Asian Development Bank maintains its growth outlook for the Philippines while lowering its inflation forecast for the country. In its latest report, the ADB kept its 6% gross domestic product forecast for this year, citing the easing inflation and interest rates, along with sustained public spending on infrastructure projects. The bank expects inflation to come in at 3.6% this 2024, down from its previous estimate of 3.8%. The ADB, however, warns that risks remain, including potential severe weather events and global financial volatility due to geopolitical tensions. The government plans to sell several idle properties and assets to boost its revenues. Finance Undersecretary Dominique Velasquez lists 6 assets for possible disposal. These are shares in Semirara Mining and United Coconut Chemicals, Elorde Sports, and the Tourism Development Corporation, the Star City property in Pasay, and condominium units in the Atrium Complex in Makati. Velasquez says the government is scouting for new funding sources without imposing new taxes, as the public has already been burdened by high inflation over the last 2 years. Meanwhile, the Finance Undersecretary adds that President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is set to sign a measure that will impose a 12% value-added tax on digital services provided by foreigners on October 2nd. The proposed measure, which is seen to generate over 20 billion pesos in revenue for the government, aims to level off the playing field between local and international digital service providers. The United States funds a training program aimed at helping the Philippines secure its position in the global semiconductor landscape. Sujin Kim has the details.
The U.S. and the Philippines enter a new partnership that's expected to directly benefit more than 6,000 Filipinos. Through a series of high-level workshops, the two countries are setting the stage for the Philippines to become a critical contributor to the global semiconductor supply chain. The initiative is part of the U.S.-backed International Technology Security and Innovation Fund, or the ITSI Fund. The U.S. Department of State awarded Arizona State University $13.8 million to foster talent development and provide policy recommendations across nations. Through the program, ITSI Senior Coordinator Virginia Kent says, the Philippines is set to become a hub for innovation, attracting new investments and securing its position in the global semiconductor landscape. The program includes free educational courses and certifications through a specialized ASU platform for both students and professionals.
Excited ho tayo dito sa programa na to. Kaya tayo excited dito dahil dun sa kahulugan nito para sa ating mga kabataan, sa mga kabataang Pilipino. So kung halimbawa ikaw ay isang high school student, ito sinasabi natin, merong isang kurso na malaking magiging pakinabang mo, tapos pwede ka magkaroon ng career.
We've targeted initially in the Philippines around 6,000 students over the next 2 years that we would enjoy completing these programs.
Joining the initiative are 5 other countries: Costa Rica, Mexico, Panama, Indonesia, and Vietnam. The U.S. underscores the significant contribution the Philippines has given to the industry.
Really important for me to emphasize how much the Philippines plays a critical role in the global semiconductor supply chain and how the semiconductors support 3 million jobs, 20% of exports and GDP here. Our reliance on those semiconductors will continue to grow as industries advance and develop.
The Philippines belongs to the top 10 exporters of semiconductors. With semiconductors making up 56.9% of the Philippines' total exports, amounting to more than $40 billion, the country's semiconductor manufacturing sector stands out as the second largest contributor to the national economy. Sujin Kim, BNC.
We're taking a quick break. Please stay with us as we dive deep into the numbers and the narratives that matter most to your bottom line.
The trailblazers, the disruptors, the titans of the industry.
We should safeguard our tradition.
We've got 53 sites in the Philippines, and each of those sites
have been goals to adopt a community.
Know what drives them as we dig deeper into their stories.
We're also bringing and helping medical tourism.
The government has to support these local farmers.
Industry Beacon on BNC, the Billionario News Channel.
These rare freshwater dolphins, known for their striking pink color, are only found in the rivers of South America. But climate change and drought are threatening the species. Now a team of scientists in Brazil are studying the Amazon River dolphin in the hopes of learning exactly how extreme conditions are changing their behavior. 2023 marked the longest drought in the Amazon rainforest's recorded history. Nearly 300 of the dolphins died, with most of them in Brazil's Lake Tefé. Researchers believe low water levels during the drought led to high temperatures not suited for the dolphins. Lake Tefé reached 102 degrees Fahrenheit last September. It's now at 86 Fahrenheit, said a geosciences researcher at the Mamarao Institute. And slow reproductive cycles make their populations especially vulnerable to threats. A team of biologists, vets, and fishermen recently caught a female dolphin in Lake Tefé to gather more information. They brought it ashore for blood tests and to insert a microchip to study the dolphin's behavior after being returned to the lake. Here's veterinarian Thais Carnero Santos Rodriguez.
This time, we're aiming to place some satellite tracking tags that will not only show us the movement of these animals during the dry season, but will also be able to measure the temperature of the water and the depth at which these animals are. So this will show us how they behave during drought and how drought and climate change can alter the normal movements of these animals.
Environmental activists have blamed the unusual conditions on climate change, which makes droughts and heat waves more likely and severe. Global warming's role in last year's Amazon drought is unclear, with other factors such as El Niño at play. Miriam Marmontel is the project's head with the Mamarao Institute of Sustainable Development. She says studying the dolphins will reveal whether the impacts are due to temperature, pollutants, or a combination of issues.
At BNC, 12 noon doesn't mean break. But breaking news, biggest stories, and latest updates.
The headlines: Go has already left the country illegally. On the scene is Bea de la Cruz. Hanati joins us from the Batasang Pambansa.
Mai Rodriguez sums up the newsfeed for you halfway through the day. Newsfeed at noon on BNC, the Billionario News Channel.
Welcome back to Basis Points Trading at the Philippine Stock Exchange. Opened just a few minutes ago. Let's take a look at the initial figures. Now, after succumbing to selling pressure yesterday following a 4-day rally, the market is back in positive territory, up by 0.3% to 73.82. All shares index up as well, up by 0.2% to 39.47. Now, all of the sub-indices all are trading in the green. The financials, industrial, holding firms, services, mining, and oil counters, except for the property counter. It's in the red, but not by much right now. Leading the charge in the PSC index is the mining and oil counter. It's up markedly, up by 2%. Now, let's take a look at the foreign exchange market. The peso opened at 56 pesos and 5 centavos, weakening slightly from its previous close of 55 pesos and 95 centavos. Now, in other news, Japan's biggest brokerage firm, Nomura Holdings, faces a fine of 21.8 million yen, or 152,000 US dollars, for allegedly manipulating the Japanese government's bond futures market. The Securities and Exchange Surveillance Commission says it recommended the penalty to the country's financial regulator after an employee at Nomura's domestic securities unit was found to have fraudulently moved JGB future prices in 2021. The dealer allegedly profited by placing large orders without ever intending to buy or sell all of them. The watchdog says that the move undermines the credibility of the securities firm as a gatekeeper in the market. This development comes as Nomura seeks to recapitalize on a rebound in bond market activity in Japan that followed the central bank's decision to raise interest rates and scrap a policy of controlling bond yields earlier this year. Now, over in Hong Kong, trouble for property developer New World Development CEO Adrian Chang. Bloomberg says that the company, which is owned by his own family, is considering replacing him. This comes after write-downs that led to the company's first annual loss in 2 decades. The New World Development's debt level, the highest among its rivals in the past few years, has become a concern for investors amid high borrowing costs and a weak property market. Chang could reportedly be replaced by the company's COO, Eric Ma Siu Chang. Chang joined New World in 2007 as an executive director, and he became CEO in 2020. Now, still in Hong Kong reclaims its spot as Asia's top financial center, ranking 3rd in the latest Global Financial Centers Index, knocking Singapore to 4th place. Topping that list is New York, followed by London. Also in the top 10, San Francisco, Chicago, Los Angeles, Shanghai, Shenzhen, and Frankfurt. The ranking, conducted by researchers Zed Partners and the China Development Institute, assesses more than 100 financial centers and surveys thousands of financial services professionals. And before we go, let's take a look at Meta's first prototype of augmented reality glasses called Orion, which the firm's chief executive officer, Mark Zuckerberg, is dubbing as a time machine to the future. The thick-rimmed Orion glasses use holograms to offer a combined view of the digital and physical worlds. They're controlled using voice, eye movement, and even hand gestures. While the prototypes are not for sale, Zuckerberg says they are planning several iterations that will make it smaller, sleeker, and more affordable for consumers later on. For Zuckerberg, this is a crucial step towards his goal to offer a hands-free substitute to the smartphone.
All right, here we go. There you go. This is Orion, our first fully functioning prototype, and if I do say so, the most advanced glasses the world has ever seen. They need to be glasses, not a headset, no wires, less than 100 grams. They need wide field of view, holographic displays, sharp enough to pick up details, bright enough to see in different lighting conditions, large enough to display a cinema screen or multiple monitors for working wherever you go, whether you're in a coffee shop or on a plane or wherever you are. And you need to be able to see through them. And people need to be able to see through them too and make eye contact with you. Where this isn't pass-through. This is the physical world with holograms overlaid on it.
And that's it for Basis Points. I'm Maiki Oreta. We'll be back tomorrow for more news on the financial markets and more. Keep it here on BNC, the Billionario News Channel, always on top.
Good morning, everyone! Let's begin your morning with these people that gives you the hottest information with excitement, positivity, and fun to start your day. Join Paulo Del Rosario and Asis Carrillo and Monique Tuzon.
Let's kick things off with some good vibes.
It's time to wake up and make this day amazing. For more happy moments only here.
It's a beautiful day. 7 a.m. on BNC, the Billionario News Channel.
How would you like to see our problems with Pogos end?
End the Pogos.
Would you consider running for office in the future?
It would be hypocrisy to say no.
Please.
At that time, how much was your first pay?
If I'm not mistaken, it was like $120 per week.
Oh, wow. So before we say goodbye to you, you can take off your sunglasses so people can see you better. Always stay at the forefront.
Thank you.